It's a Diamond Jim Reedy where they do the story of what happened in New Guinea with 158 combat missions. They they bypassed a lot of area where it was probably is uh, about at Lexhaven with a big air base, Wewak with a big air base, Hollandia with a big air base, and Uligan Harbor, a big supply base with lots of anti-aircraft guns. And they were bypassed, and the American troops started landing further toward the Philippines. And we was left behind to keep the 100,000 Japs that was that area busy so they wouldn't get stirred up. And so we were sending two planes every 30 minutes down the beach to keep the Japs off of the beaches and keep them busy. And every bridge that they built and any building that they showed any activity, we would strafe it and throw 500-pound bombs at it. So me and Markov on this particular area was flying down. We flew right on the beach, about 4 foot off the ground, at about 400 miles an hour, and we can't fire at that angle, at that low of altitude, but we could come up on them before the noise of the engines would get to them. And so therefore we'd use that to come up on a target. We couldn't fire that low because if we dropped the nose to fire a gun at somebody, we at 400 miles an hour, we'd be into the dirt right quick. So we had to pull up and get the nose down before we could fire, which they didn't know that, but that's what we did know. And so when I'd see somebody or see a target, I had about 5 seconds to pull up and fire. And at 400 miles an hour, you're not shooting like a sniper, you're shooting. I had four 50 calibers and one 37 millimeter cannon. So I throwed them all at one time because I couldn't hit them like a sniper. I had to throw a lot of lead in order to hit the target. And had one particular area that me and Markov, which was my wingman, and we were flying right on the beach, and the bank was about off the sand was about 25 foot out in the ocean, and then the bank where the grass was growing and trees was about 25 yards inland. In this particular area was a area with a large grass hut, and it was in a area that was no trees. It had been cleared out. I suppose the Japs had used it because we seemed to find lots of targets in that area. But we came across that this day, and I looked up at the grass hut as I went by, and there was a group of Jap soldiers in the grass hut, and one of them was standing in the door. And I looked at the grass hut as I went by, and I saw him duck back into the grass hut. Well, I knew that a grass hut won't stop bullets, so I got Markov and me. We circled around, and we fired all of those two planes with that'd be 8 50 caliber machine guns and two 37 millimeter cannons, and we throwed those into that grass hut, and nobody ever came out. So I'm assuming The reason they didn't stay in there because they were dead. Because we filled that so much bullets into that grass hut. I could not tell you how many we shot, but nobody ever, with all that lead going into that grass hut, nobody ever came out. And I saw him duck back into the grass hut. I went back, started paying more attention to that area, and I said right in front of the grass hut was the strangest tree I ever saw. It was probably, it was about, I don't know what kind it was, but the trunk was about 4 foot, not 4 inches, 4 foot thick, and only about 15 foot high. And it was right in front of the grass hut. So the next time we came by there, I saw a Jap soldier run and duck in behind that trunk. Well, me and Markov tried to get him, but we couldn't get over the tree at the same time or we'd run into each other. So we'd have him space one would come in from one direction and the other would be just a little delayed, giving that first one the chance to get out. And he would run around that trunk and be on the opposite side of whoever was firing. And I don't know how that trunk stood all that lead, but he was able to stay safe, and he had to really stay close behind that 4 foot. And every time we went over there, he was running around that tree, and he couldn't run to the jungle because it was about 100 yards to the trees. So he was stuck with a tree, and we kept going across there trying to get him a little too far out or something. And me and Markov flew right at the tree every time, not at the same time, until we ran out of ammunition. And we had to go home and leave that guy alive. And that's the reason I said, God bless this tree, because that guy saved his, and he stayed behind that tree till both of us ran out of ammunition. And as far as I could tell, we never did hit him.